In 1998, I was working at the Jim Henson Company, and it was my dream job. I was on the job maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, when I had the opportunity to be a Muppet Wrangler, which is what they called it, for an Elmo shoot with Tony Bennet. And I arrived at the New York studios to shoot an episode of VH1's Storytellers with Elmo in tow, and as I watched Tony and Elmo sing together, I looked out on the audience and I took note of these generations that Tony had assembled. There were teenagers, and there were 20-somethings, and there were grandparents and young parents, and I couldn't help but think that Tony Bennet just crossed generations. He had just annihilated generation gaps. But it would take me the next 15 years to really fully understand how he did it, and even find ways I could leverage those in a marketing sense. You see, in 1963, Tony Bennet was a Grammy Award-winning pop sensation, but his success wasn't that long-lived. By the 80s, in fact, he was in a financial ruin and his career was at the bottom of a downslide. And that's when his son, Danny Bennet, had a genius idea. You see, Danny believed that Tony didn't have to kind of reinvent his look. He didn't have to update his song list. All Tony had to do was get in front of a new audience and they would love him. And Danny happened to be right. So Danny began to re-engineer Tony's career by executing a simple strategy that borrowed from advertising and public relations and talent management. The strategy was elegantly simple. You see, Tony would just sing duets with some of the most popular artists in the world in the hopes of attracting that new audience. That night in New York, Elmo wasn't the only guest that was going to sing on Storytellers with Tony Bennet. In fact, the Backstreet Boys, who were unbelievably popular at the time, were also on the same episode. So in 8 short years, Tony Bennet had gone from a tired Las Vegas sideshow to a hip cultural icon. His Unplugged album had gone platinum, he'd earned himself 4 more Grammy Awards, and he'd done it by partnering with other artists. Artists who had their own fans and followers and friends. Artists like Katie Lang and the Dixie Chicks and James Taylor and Stevie Wonder and Paul McCartney and of course Elmo, who I was there with. So every one of those duets exposed Tony to a new audience, the audience of his duet partner. That's the power of brandscaping. You create these unconventional content partnerships that drive demand for the products and services you sell. Today, everyone has an audience. It's on Instagram and YouTube, it's on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's your email list and your customer database. It's your company's audience and the audience of your employees and your partners, distributors, your friends. Today, your audience is your most valuable marketing asset. Right now, there are other companies out there who have your next customer in their customer database. So what if you partnered with them to create some great content for their audience? What if you created your own version of a Tony Bennet duet? That's what brandscaping is all about. It's about transforming marketing expenses into content assets. It's about rethinking advertising and public relations. It's about partnering with authentic talent that you haven't even discovered yet. This book is all about connecting the best traditional media strategies with the paradigm shifts in the new media world. Brandscaping is about unleashing the power of partnerships. So ask yourself, who would you sing a duet with? Are you ready to brandscape?